Welcome back. So here we are back in the garage, and most of my regular viewers know this car pretty well. This is my 94 Mazda Miata. It's a package C with leather and the Torsen differential and all that. Just a quick, for those of you who don't know, I bought this car 3 years ago to kind of replace my motorcycling and scooter hobby after a pretty gnarly accident that I luckily survived and did not need any major accommodations to recover from, so that was a nice touch. But this car kind of replaced that whole thing. I needed something that I could tinker with, something that I could enjoy, and something, you know, and one of the things that I don't miss about scootering is I didn't like buy a 50cc, you know, Chinese scooter and, you know, sputter around town with it. I bought a Honda Helix 250 and I would go interstate with it. I would take it on the highways and everything. And when I kind of grew out of that after a couple of years, so I bought, you know, a Silverwing 600. And that's a twin-cylinder, freeway, well more than freeway capable motor scooter from Honda that I enjoyed for a week before getting hit by a truck. Anyway, I lived, and here I am 3 years later. So this car is what I bought to replace that scooter, and I've had a lot of fun with it over the past 3 years. And this winter I did a lot of work to it. I made a couple of videos about this. This is just kind of we're going to glaze over all that. But this winter, I replaced the shocks, all 4 shocks. I stuck with a stock equivalent. I went with the KYB Excel Gs, I think, or whatever they changed the name of that product line. But it's basically an OEM equivalent shock. It's Japanese made. Their quality, you know, so they should last a good long time. The originals were still okay, actually. When I pulled them out, I figured out that they still had some dampening to them after over 26 years, but ultimately, you know, they were no good. But anyway, the other thing I did was I installed these splash guards. These are from IL Motorsports out of Germany. They sell them through Moss Miata catalogs. Moss is an importer for them in the US. Now these actually come molded in color, but about a week ago I took them off the car and I cleaned them. I prepped them and I painted them with SEM black trim paint, which is a really good product. Unfortunately, they don't sell it in auto parts stores. Most auto parts stores don't carry them. The chains don't carry it. I think I have the can right here. You can see I had it up here, actually. It's not here anymore. But anyway, I used the SEM Trim Black to give these a very uniform black finish. When you put them on unpainted, they don't look great. You can definitely tell. Yeah, they just don't look that good. So you really should paint them. And SEM makes a great product. I've used their paint for a couple of things on this car. These seatbelt bolt covers. And I used it on the windshield wipers. And so far, that was over a year ago, and they're still looking pretty good. The other thing I did is, I've been talking about this for quite a while now, but almost since I bought the car. My plan all this time was to get it sent out to a proper detailing shop and have it buffed and possible paint correction if it's doable. So the Miata, first generation Miata, the NAs 90 to 97, the solid colors were painted with a single stage paint process. There is no clear coat. Now that was a very common process in years prior. In fact, I believe some exotics still are painted this way. But you'll never find a daily driver car painted this way. Well, maybe some of the white and black cars might still have this type of finish, but it's not very common. So if you happen to have one of these cars and you go to wax it for the first time and your wax applicator pad turns whatever color the car is in, and you freak out because you think you went through the clear coat, don't worry, you didn't. There was no clear coat to begin with. The side effect of that is these cars tend to fade and turn chalky. That is a very common problem with single-stage paint. So a white car will turn dull and form like a chalky appearance. You take your finger and rub it up against the car, and you might find there's like red or black or whatever color the car is, you're going to find that on your finger. But don't panic, because that just means the car is, the paint is beginning to oxidize, and it should be professionally polished. Or if you're willing to do it yourself, you can certainly do that. I didn't want to use this car as a learning experience, so I brought it to a reputable shop that's been in my area for 40 years. And they've been around long enough to have had experience with single-stage vehicles. So, one of the first things that they did, so I brought it to the shop nearby, and I had them take a look at it before we committed to anything. This was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe. So they put a paint meter to the car to see what the thickness is. Now that's important. If you're going to cut and buff a car or do paint correction, you really need to know how thick the paint is. That's critical, because if it's too thin, then they're just going to burn right through into the primer. So not wanting that to happen to me, I was glad to see they checked the thicknesses. So they checked the steel panels first. Well, only because you can't check the thickness on an aluminum hood, not with the equipment they have. So they checked all the thicknesses, and the woman who did that, who I think might be the co-owner, she said that, I'm sorry, but your paint is a little thin in some spots, so we're not going to recommend a full paint correction for the car, but what we'll do is we'll strip the car, all the wax layers off the car. The thing had like 100 coats of wax on it. So they took all that off, and they machine polished it, with a very mild compound. And the end result isn't perfect, but she did adjust my expectations. She said, the car is 27 years old, and so is the paint. In a lot of areas, this car does have some newer paint on it, specifically the rear bumper, the deck lid, and the front bumper. So from my research, i.e. Carfax, I found that the deck lid has been replaced, the rear bumper has been replaced, and the front bumper was painted. It's the original bumper. It was never in a forward collision, but it did have a very minor rear end collision. The damage was so minor that it didn't cause any damage to the structure of the car, but they did replace the trunk lid. I'm trying to picture what kind of collision this car was in, and I'm struggling to picture it, but the taillights, this filler panel, these are all original parts. They still have the VIN tags on them. Well, the filler panel does. So, and it matches the car, so it's original. Strangest thing ever. But the rear bumper does not have the VIN tags. So, and it was definitely painted. So, with a mixture of new and old paint, the car actually does look pretty good. The only thing that bothers me about it is under artificial light, like these LED shop lights, you can see the defects. But you roll this thing into the driveway on a sunny day, and it glows for miles. It glows. And right now, the car's a little dirty. I've been driving it around, so it's not the cleanest. But I trusted them. I trusted their judgment, and they said, we're not. They could have made more money off of me if I had agreed to do the cut and buff, basically where they take the scratches out. The little minor surface scratches. There's nothing going down, through the paint or anything. But we agreed to just do the minimum because we don't want to ruin the paint that's on it. The thing is, with a classic car, originality and patina actually do give it they do matter. That's why you'll see a lot of really nice old 1950s and 60s cars rolling around with, rusted hoods and roofs and door panels, because that's the look that's popular right now. Now, this thing is nowhere near that, but you get the point. There's nothing wrong with a little patina, okay? It just means the car has been around for a while. So one of the things that they did to this car that I wasn't expecting, and I was blown away by the results, is they actually steam cleaned the wheels. And I thought the wheels were clean just the way they were. I hadn't really thought anything of it. They looked fine to me. I never really gave it a second thought. But as it turns out, I'm looking at some earlier pictures of the car, and the wheels had a yellowish tinge to them that I never really noticed. So what they did is they steam cleaned them, and they look brand new. All four wheels look like they just came out of the factory. I mean, with a few nicks here and there, I mean, you're going to have that on a car like this, but, I mean, they're just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. One of the other things I did is the car had wheel locks all around, and those are those stupid. They look like a cylinder instead of having a hexagonal nut shape to them. They're kind of cylindrical, and they have like a groove machined into them, and you have to use a special socket to remove them. Not only are they an eyesore, but they're impractical for a couple of reasons. This is a 94 Miata, okay, with stock wheels. Nobody is stealing my rims. Nobody's stealing my tires. Not going to happen. And if they do, I could get another rim for $50. It's kind of pointless. Why even? And not only that, but if that key gets lost, something happens to it, a service station loses it when they do the wheels balancing or whatever. Now I got to find a new one. So I could be stranded on the side of the road. I can't get the lug off. but the guy stealing wheels off of exotic cars can, because he's got the tool to remove the wheel locks. You see my point? The wheel locks are there to keep honest people honest and to fatten the wallets of car salesmen. That's it. That's the only reason they exist. Just the other day, I was driving home, and I saw a Mitsubishi Mirage, one of the newer ones, with the 12-inch tires that are that wide. This car is rolling on bicycle tires. And I'm looking over, I'm like, that thing has wheel locks on it. What? Somebody bought that car from a dealership and checked off the box that says, I want wheel. Actually, in all honesty, the dealers put those on the car before it hits the floor. That happened to me when I bought my Nissan Versa back in 2007. Yes, I was one of the early adopters of the Nissan Versa. Go ahead, make fun of me, I don't care. Whatever, I liked the car for what it was. But my car had wheel locks, and it was already they were Nissan brand wheel locks, and they were on the car before I even looked at it. So, what can you do, right? But anyway, delete the wheel locks. I went on eBay and I bought 4 used lug nuts. I wanted used because I wanted them to look equivalent age-wise to the existing ones. I didn't want one brand new lug nut in each wheel. Besides, they're $20 a piece if you buy the original Mazda wheel nuts. So, but I got them used for about $5. So that was a nice find. Anywho's. So, let's talk about dents. So this car had about 4 dents in it, and they're gone. Where'd they go? I lost my dents. PDR, my friends. So when I had the car buffed, brought it to this detailing shop, I said, hey, you guys must have a relationship with one of the local PDR folks. That's Paintless Dent Removal. If you could do me a favor and just have a couple of dents removed, that'd be great. So the PDR folks, they drive around to dealerships, service centers, they'll even come to your house. And you just pay them their fee. It's usually about $100 per dent. So the pricing structure is a little bit weird. So if I have one dent in a rear quarter panel, that's $100. But what they let you do is they'll do up to 2 or 3 dents. I forget the number per panel. So if my quarter panel had 3 dents in it, it's still $100. But if I had 1 dent in the quarter panel and 1 dent in the door, that's $200. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? So their pricing structure is, I think it's actually 2 dents per panel for that one fee. So I had them do. I had 2 dents in the door and 1 dent in the rear quarter. And that was going to be $200. I said, fine. I don't know where the dents were, but I can tell you that there was one right about here. And there was one here, somewhere in this region. And I think the other one in the door they were close by. So and I didn't notice this until I brought the car home. But there was another dent that I didn't even tell them about. It was in the rear quarter, and it was right here. See this little mark here? That is because the paint had been damaged from when it got dented from the inside. So what happened here is the battery, which is right here. I'll show you. So the battery's right here. And when I bought the car, it had the wrong battery installed. It had what looked like a Honda S2000 battery installed. Or I don't know what it was for. I'm just assuming. And the battery was too big for its opening. So because it didn't fit the bracket, they just kind of left it chill, just sitting there. So at some point, the car must have taken a hard left or something, or a hard right. No, it would have been a hard left. I don't know what the situation was. But what happened was the battery was knocked into the quarter panel, and it dented it from the inside. So when I picked the car up, after I picked it up, and I'm looking it over, I'm like, where's that dent? Huh. The guy fixed it for me. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Now that is customer service. I was not expecting that. He didn't charge me any extra because it was on the same panel. It's a pretty good sized panel. I wish there were more dents in it. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so that's how that got fixed. Now PDR, I've seen it done. I bought a brand new Hyundai Elantra once. We all make mistakes. No, it was. I like the car. It was the right car for me at the time. Trust me on this. It was reliable to an extent, but it was just a simple car, and that's all I wanted. When I went to go pick it up at the dealer, I noticed a dent in the driver's side door. I think it was the driver's door. And I went to the dealer. I said, I don't recall this brand new car having any dents on it when I looked at it. Can you take a look at it? And they said, sure thing. And I said, oh, wow. I wonder how maybe one of the porters did it. So they called over their PDR guy. It was a guy. I can say that. You're supposed to say person now, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I'm old-fashioned. But anyway, it just happened to be a PDR guy, and he let me watch what he did. And it was pretty cool. Because what they do, and not everybody knows that this is a thing. So if you have a car that you really like and it's got dents all over it, you can have those dents removed very easily. So what they do is they find an access point where they can get behind the sheet metal. And they have my camera keeps going out of focus. And they have these special tools. It's like a rod, like a shaft with like a movable bit on the end and a handle on one side. And they just put it up against the metal and they just rotate the handle, which rotates like an anvil against the sheet metal like this. and they slowly work that dent out of the metal, and it doesn't damage the paint, hence PDR, paintless dent removal. And it just works so well. Now, there are other ways to remove dents. There's, of course, the old dry ice method, which doesn't always work and can damage the paint. What you got to realize is paint is basically plastic. Now, if you put a lot of heat or a lot of cold on that paint, you could cause it to crack. You could cause it to melt. You could, if the paint isn't bonded very well, remember those Ding King tools that they used to sell on TV? Billy Mays here, you know, the Ding King. Yeah, it's a weird name for a tool, but what it is, and you can buy I think they sell these at auto parts stores now. It's a little device, mounts to the side of the car with suction cups, and you use hot glue and push this little fitting onto wherever the dent is, and then it basically pulls the dent out that way. But a couple of things that I don't like about those is there's two things. Number one, it puts pressure on the opposing sides of the dent. So you could actually, with today's cars, the sheet metal is so goddamn thin that you could potentially warp the panel doing that. The other thing is you're putting hot glue directly onto a painted surface. Now, again, if your paint is old or there's a bonding issue, you could pull the paint right off the car. I've never seen it happen, but it is a possibility. But if your car is something that you generally don't give a shit about and you just want to try it, go ahead, knock yourself out. I won't be doing it on mine. So now let's get to some not so great things. So over the winter, I did replace the exhaust header gasket. Not the header, but sorry, the downpipe to the header gasket. Okay, not the manifold gasket okay. This car has an exhaust header, not a manifold. It's terminology, whatever. So I replaced that gasket, and in the process, I had to remove the downpipe from the catalytic converter, which meant that I had to replace one of these. Now, this is one that I just pulled out today, and you can see I got problems, man. I got problems. Can you see what the problem is? Let me put some light on that. Do you see what's wrong with this, or is it just me? So, initially I thought I had warped the flange, and because it was leaking a little. I could hear a little bit of a leak, like a tick, tick, tick. On cold startups, I could hear it leaking. And if you take a good look at this guy, you can see where it's blowing out from the fire ring here. And that's not good. That's not good at all. So I took this out. I went over to the dealer. I bought a new gasket, put it in, and it still leaks. Not badly, not as bad as it was, but here's the problem. The flange is pitted pretty badly. So what I have to do, if I do decide, I will eventually fix it for reals. But what I'm going to have to do is pull the exhaust system completely off the car, which means more downtime. But I'm going to have to pull the exhaust system off the car. I'm going to have to take a belt sander to the flanges to get all the pits and irregularities out of them. There is no other option. I'm going to have to do that eventually. But I'm going to enjoy the car the way it is, because it doesn't leak badly. Let's start it up, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's get it going, and you can hear it. Okay, that wasn't too bad. But I could hear a bit of a flutter when you decelerate. I don't recall it doing that before. Maybe it's all in my head. But that gasket was definitely leaking. So this time I torqued it a little bit heavier. And that's when I found out my torque wrench doesn't work. Yeah. I had one of those Harbor Freight torque wrenches, and I'm torquing it. I set it to, like, you have to graduate it up from, you know, like 10 foot-pounds all the way up to about 40 foot-pounds. I'm like, it's not clicking. Anyway, so that torque wrench went straight into the trash. But anyway, you know, I think what I'm going to do is we'll live with it for this year. It should pass inspection, no problem. It's not an obvious you know, leak or anything, and the exhaust system on the car isn't rusted at all. It's completely savable, so we're not going to be putting an exhaust in this car. I have no aspirations of making it perform any better than it does or making it sound any differently. Fortunately, the car has a stainless steel factory catback exhaust, but that header pipe is steel, so it can rust, but I don't think it is. At least not to a point where it requires replacing it. So what I'm going to do is, again, when I lay the car up next winter, depending on how this goes, if it gets any worse or it starts to leak badly, I might consider fixing it. But what I don't smell right now is uncatalyzed exhaust. That's how you know you have a leak pre-cat. Like, you'll smell... the smell is two completely different odors. Catalyzed exhaust is a very unique smell to it, and so does uncatalyzed. So you can tell if you have a leak forward the catalytic converter, and I don't really smell it right now, which is impressive. I kind of expected that, but anyway, that's that. Other than that, this car is ready to rock and roll for the year, or for the summer season. I put maybe 3,000 miles on it last summer. I mean, really nothing. We did one trip up to Washington, Mount Washington, New Hampshire. You know, we actually went up Mount Washington. We parked the car at the base lodge, and we took the train up to the summit. So we didn't drive the car up the mountain. I'm not taking a 26-year-old car up Mount Washington. Just not worth it. Not worth it. Not only that, but it just adds unnecessary wear and tear on a car that I intend to keep for a very long time. And my cat won't leave me alone. He just keeps meowing at me. So, that's where we're at. There are still some scratches in the paint, but like I said, they did not feel comfortable digging too deep into it. So, we're going to leave it alone. They're just surface scratches, light scratches, you know, from just years of use. We're going to leave that alone. So the IL Motorsports center console was a worthy investment. With this center console, I can actually have 2 cups of coffee sitting in the cup holders, and I can still shift like a human being. I don't have to bend my arm or my hand like this as I'm trying to shift the car into gear or whatever. No, that is a worthwhile investment. Trust me on this. If you put any interior modifications in your first gen Miata, make it that. Definitely worth the money. The other thing I like about it is that it places the window switches in a more natural position. So this was an unexpected benefit. Like, this is perfect. Like, you put your arm here, you're driving along, and you can put the windows up and down. Where the switches used to be, they were choked up back here somewhere. In this longer storage compartment, that really comes in handy. On a car that doesn't have a lot of interior storage, this is gold. Trust me on this. I think it was $300. No, it was less than that. It was like $250. It was on sale for some reason. But anyway, worthwhile. Trust me on that. If you're a lazy American like myself and you like to drink coffee while you drive, You know, where the cup holders are right here, you got really no place to rest your arm, and you have to shift. Like, you can't, you have to go like this, and it's just so unnatural and so uncomfortable. This solves that problem for forever. Like, I'm so glad I spent the money on it. Again, this is not a car that I ever intend to sell. I'm never going to make money on it. I just like to enjoy driving it, and making it a more enjoyable interior space is also very nice. But I kept the original one, just in case. Where is it? It's in that white box right there. Yeah, that's the original console is still there. I'm not throwing it away or selling it or giving it away. It's there forever, as long as I own the car, along with the original stereo, which is in that box right there. So if I ever decide to put it back, I can do that whenever I want. So I think that just about covers it all, man. All right. So yeah, this is back on the road. Really, only that one minor exhaust hiccup, which I can fix if I decide to tear the car back apart again, and it's not that hard to do. It really isn't. It's a very easy car to work on. So, all right. You know, there's one dent I should have had him look at, but I didn't want to spend the $100. This dent I caused. I did this. This is me, all me. I was disconnecting my air compressor. No, I was plugging in the air hose. I thought it was locked in. It wasn't. At about, what, 225 PSI, the thing lets go. Thank God it hit the car and not my face. That's all I got to say. Oh, one more thing. So these end pieces on the rack were chromed. When this rack was made, you could get these in chrome or black. This one was chromed. Unfortunately, that chrome, over time, can delaminate from the plastic. And that's what happened to me on both sides. It was really starting to look kind of ragged. So what I did was I took it apart while I was having the car detailed. I just took the rack off to make their lives easier. And I cleaned these up, took the chrome off. Little fun fact, so one of the end pieces, I think it was this one, the chrome wouldn't come off completely. The other one, the chrome just fell off. Like really, it's like it wasn't even there. But on the other one, the chrome wouldn't come off. So what I had to do was I soaked it in bleach for about a week. Because chrome is metal. And bleach is caustic, it ate the chrome completely off. And it also ate off the copper flash coat that's on it, whatever that's called. So there's copper and there's chromium. So it ate all of it off, brought it down to bare plastic. So that was fun. It takes about a week to do that on a piece like that with the chrome as thick as it was. But yeah, it took about a week to do that, and got it all painted up. If this paint does not hold up, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to repaint those end pieces with Sem's black trim paint, and I know that'll hold up. Also, to make the detailer's job a little easier and to get a better end result, I took the windshield washer nozzles off for them, and I bought new ones to put back on. Because the original ones, the rubber base gaskets, were cracking. So now I have new base gaskets and nice shiny new nozzles. If your nozzle doesn't shine, she'll want nothing to do with you. Another example of chrome-plated plastic would be these badges. Yeah, these are chrome. They're plated in the same process. The Miata badge and the Mazda badge. I left those on the car. They didn't seem to care. I think they polished my taillights too. Those look brand new. Nice job. They did a beautiful job. I mean, for what they had to work with, yeah, they did fantastic. Oh, one more thing. This video is going to be long. I got a new camera battery, by the way. These mirrors were faded almost pink. I think Yeah, they were definitely discolored, and they polished them up, and the color came right back. So I'm very grateful for that. I thought I was going to be having the mirrors painted this year or next year because they were starting to look like shit, but they polished up real nice. Very happy about that. Well, all having been said, I think it's time for me to skedaddle. So we'll get this uploaded. I know some of you like the car content, some of you don't. For me, it's actually more fun than computer stuff because you can drive a car. You can't drive a computer. Upcoming, I've got my new floor I got to put in. Last week of April of this year, I'm going to be ripping up my kitchen floor and putting down some nice new plywood. And I'm going to be putting some 1/4-inch plywood on top of that. And then I'm going to do some vinyl composite tile on top of that. I wanted to, now this isn't going to be for a month or so, but I wanted to make sure that I got my plywood now rather than later, because there is going to be a national shortage of plywood. You see, everybody's got their stimmy checks, and they're going to want to be fixing up the houses too. So right now there's a shortage of certain types of plywoods and certain types of building products. I don't want to be caught in that shortage for reasons why I don't think I have to explain. I think you understand why. Because once you start tearing a floor apart, you know, you got to put something down. And if I don't buy my stuff ahead of time, I could wind up in a lot of hurt. So I'm hoping that does not happen to me. So this plywood is not the best of quality for sure, but I think it's okay. As long as one side is good on each panel. And this is Sureply underlayment. This is not Luan. I've been told many times that Luan is bad news bears for underlayment, so you want to use Sureply. It's good stuff. Apparently it's tough enough. From Patriot Timber, Sureply.com. This should be enough to do the whole kitchen. And I just got to get myself a staple gun and get it down. The plywood will be screwed down. I don't want any more squeaky floors. I'm done with that. No more squeaky frickin' floors. That'll be fun. All right, well, in another video, in another day, we'll be looking at that. So, all right. You making all that noise, bud? You want your daddy? Yeah, I know. You want your daddy? Well, why aren't you in your basket? Oh, little Oreos. Hey, bud. This guy, I'll tell you. This friggin' guy. Oh, that's my string. That's not your string. That's my pajama string. Yeah. He likes his belly rubbed. Yeah. Alright. I'm gonna go in now. You wanna come with me? You wanna come with? Let's go.